I woke up to find an auction sign planted right in front of my barn, my own property. At first, I thought it was a prank. But when I saw the HOA president smirking from across the street, I knew this was something more sinister. They were trying to steal my land, piece by piece. So I decided to play their game, and I played it better. They wanted to take my barn? Fine. I sold them the deed to a property they didn't even own. Watching them realize they had been scammed was the sweetest revenge I could have imagined. The morning air was crisp as I stepped onto my porch, coffee in hand. The sun had barely risen, casting a golden hue over my land. It was a quiet, peaceful moment, the kind that made me grateful to live out here, away from the noise of the city. I took a slow sip, inhaling the fresh scent of the earth, and turned my gaze toward my barn, the same barn that had been in my family for generations. Then I saw it, a massive sign planted right in front of my barn. The bright red letters practically screamed at me. Auction this weekend, property sale. For a second, my brain refused to process what I was looking at. I blinked, thinking maybe I was still half asleep. But no, it was real. A big, official-looking sign, complete with the HOA's stupid little logo on the corner. My stomach dropped. I stormed down the porch steps, my coffee forgotten, and stomped toward the sign. My hands curled into fists as I read the details. Barn structure and surrounding land to be repurposed by the Sunnyside HOA. Auction open to all HOA members. I felt my pulse hammer in my ears. My barn, my land. What kind of sick joke was this? A slow, smug chuckle made my skin crawl. Beautiful morning, isn't it? I turned sharply, already knowing who it was before I even saw her. Karen, the bane of my existence. The self-proclaimed queen of the HOA. She stood across the street, arms crossed, clipboard tucked under one arm like some kind of corporate overlord. She had that look on her face, the one that made me want to launch something through a window. I marched straight toward her. Karen, what the hell is this? I jabbed a finger toward the sign. Why is there an auction notice on my land? She tilted her head, pretending to look surprised. Oh, you didn't get the notice? That's unfortunate. Notice? I spat. I don't even belong to the HOA. Karen pursed her lips in fake sympathy. Well, that's the thing. There's been a slight zoning revision, and your property is now included in the HOA's jurisdiction. She gave a dramatic sigh, as if she were explaining something simple to a toddler. Your barn is, well, it's not exactly aesthetically pleasing, is it? We have big plans for this community, and that structure is a bit of an eyesore. We're holding an auction this weekend to repurpose the land for something more beneficial. I stared at her, my hands shaking from sheer rage. Let me get this straight. You changed the zoning without telling me, and now you think you can just take my barn and sell it to some HOA puppet? Karen gave me one of her tight, infuriating smiles. It's nothing personal, she said, like that would somehow make it better. This is simply about the betterment of the neighborhood. The HOA has been working tirelessly to improve property values, and having an old, run-down barn sitting in the middle of an otherwise pristine area isn't exactly helpful. I took a slow, controlled breath, tried to keep myself from losing it right then and there. That barn has been in my family for 3 generations. My grandfather built it with his own hands. It is my property. Not yours. Not the HOA's. Mine. Karen let out a soft laugh, shaking her head. Oh, honey, she cooed, in that condescending way that made my skin crawl. You need to think bigger. Change is coming whether you like it or not. The sooner you accept that, the easier this will be for you. I took a step closer, lowering my voice. You are not selling my property. Karen's smirk didn't falter. Well, that's not entirely up to you anymore. I clenched my jaw so hard my teeth ached. This is theft, I growled. You can't do this. She gave a light shrug, flipping through her clipboard like she was checking off groceries on a list. I suggest you cooperate, or things might get a little complicated for you. You know, zoning violations, property assessments, unexpected fines. The last thing you want is to get wrapped up in a long, expensive legal battle, right? My blood ran hot. She wasn't just trying to take my barn. She was threatening me. You really think you can intimidate me into handing over my land? I said, voice dangerously calm. Karen smiled wider. No intimidation. Just facts. The auction will proceed as planned. You'll be notified of the final sale results on Monday. Have a lovely day. And with that, she turned on her heel and walked away, whistling to herself like she hadn't just tried to steal a piece of my life. I stood there, fists clenched, heart hammering, watching her disappear down the street. This wasn't just HOA overreach. This was war. I stood there for a moment, staring at the back of Karen's smug, retreating figure, my hands clenched so tightly my fingernails dug into my palms. I could still hear the sickeningly self-satisfied whistle she let out as she walked away, acting like she had already won. My barn, my land, and this woman thought she could just take it? Not a chance in hell. I spun on my heel and stormed toward my truck. If this was a zoning issue, then I was going straight to City Hall to shut it down before she got any further. The drive was a blur of rage and strategy. I knew how HOAs worked. They thrived on bluffing, scaring homeowners into thinking they had authority they didn't actually have. But I wasn't just some fool who'd roll over because Karen said something was true. I parked in front of the zoning office, took a deep breath to keep myself from kicking down the damn door, and walked in. "Hey," I said, approaching the clerk's desk. "I need to check the zoning records for my property. There's a situation with my land being falsely claimed by an HOA." The woman behind the desk barely looked up as she pulled up the records on her computer. She squinted at the screen, clicked around for a second, then nodded. "Yep, your land is listed as private property, not part of any HOA." I let out a slow breath, feeling a small wave of relief. So there haven't been any changes? Nothing recently rezoned or transferred? She scrolled some more. "Nope, everything's the same as it's always been. Your barn, your land. The HOA doesn't have any claim to it." I smirked. That's what I thought. "Mind printing me a copy of that?" I asked. "Sure thing." A few minutes later, I walked out of City Hall with a certified document proving Karen was full of it, and I was going to rub it in her face. I drove straight back to my property, practically jumping out of my truck before it had even fully stopped. Karen was still there, clipboard in hand, talking to some other HOA board members. I stomped right up to her. "Karen," I called out. She turned, already smirking, like she expected me beg. I held up the document. "Want to explain why City Hall says my property isn't part of your HOA?" Her smirk faltered, but only for a second before she rolled her eyes. "Oh, that's outdated information." I let out a humorless laugh. "Outdated?" I flipped the paper around and tapped the date at the top. This was printed 10 minutes ago. Karen crossed her arms. "I understand this is frustrating for you, but zoning expansions happen all the time. The HOA has been working on this for months, and you should have received multiple notices by now." I took a slow step closer, lowering my voice. "I never received a single notice, Karen. Not one." "Well," she sniffed, "that's not our fault if you're not paying attention." I exhaled sharply through my nose, trying to keep myself from screaming. "Karen, my land is private. That means you have no legal claim to it. That sign you put up? Illegal." She waved me off like I was some clueless child. "Oh, stop being so dramatic. This isn't a big deal. You'll be fairly compensated." My head snapped up. "What did you just say?" "You'll be paid a reasonable amount," she said, slow and deliberate. "When the auction goes through and the land is reassigned for community projects, the HOA will ensure you get a modest sum. It's a win-win." Modest sum. She was talking about stealing my land and throwing me a few scraps to keep quiet. I laughed, a sharp, humorless sound that made her eyes narrow. "You really think I'm going to let you do this?" I asked, voice tight. Karen sighed dramatically, like I was exhausting her patience. "I understand change is hard for some people." "You mean people who actually own the land they live on?" I cut in, her lips pressed into a thin line. "Listen," she said, shifting to a sickeningly sweet tone. "I really don't want this to get messy, but if you make things difficult, the HOA does have legal options." I crossed my arms. "Oh yeah? Like what? Well, she tapped her clipboard. If we can prove your barn is a hazard, the city could issue a demolition order. And if you refuse to comply, well, she gave a fake, sad shrug. We'd have to take legal action. And legal battles can be expensive. My stomach twisted in rage. There it was, the real threat. This wasn't just about my barn anymore. Karen was weaponizing bureaucracy. Tried to bury me in legal fees, inspections, and paperwork until I gave up. You're bluffing, I said through clenched teeth. She smiled. Am I? I knew she was. The document in my hand proved she had no authority over my land. But the problem with HOAs? They don't need to be right. They just needed to make life miserable enough that people folded. I had two choices. Spend the next 6 months drowning in legal battles, wasting time and money fighting off fake violations and fabricated lawsuits. Do something Karen wouldn't see coming. I inhaled slowly, forcing my shoulders to relax. All right, Karen. Her eyebrows lifted slightly, like she was expecting me to surrender. You win, I said. I won't fight you on this. The satisfaction in her face was instant. Good, she said with a smug little nod. I knew you'd come to your senses. I forced a polite smile and turned toward my house. Oh, don't worry, I muttered under my breath. I'm coming to my senses. All right, she thought she had me backed into a corner. She had no idea I was about to flip the entire game on her. I sat in my living room, staring at the zoning document I had gotten from City Hall. It was all the proof I needed that Karen was lying. The HOA had no claim over my land, no legal rights, no authority. But Karen wasn't playing fair. If I fought this the honest way, she'd bury me in legal fees, bogus citations, and endless inspections until I had no choice but to give up. I could already see the battle playing out in my head. Months of stress, money wasted on lawyers, my barn condemned over some fabricated safety violation. I wasn't going to let that happen. If Karen wanted to play dirty, I played dirtier. I took a deep breath, grabbed my phone, and made a call. Hey, Tom, I need your help. Tom had been my best friend since high school, and now he worked in real estate law. If anyone could help me out of this mess, it was him. What's going on? He asked. I told him everything. The sign, the fake zoning claims, Karen's threats, and how the HOA was trying to sell my barn out from under me. Jesus, Tom muttered. That's not just illegal. That's next level scummy. Yeah, I said, and I want to take them down for it. He let out a low whistle. You got a plan? Not yet, I admitted. But I'm thinking if they want to claim they own my land, what if I let them buy it? There was a pause. Then I heard the grin in Tom's voice. Go on. That's when it hit me. I didn't need to stop the auction. I needed to make sure that when Karen and her little HOA crooks handed over their money, they weren't actually buying my barn. No. They'd be buying a worthless piece of land they already owned. Tom, I said slowly, the idea forming like a lightning bolt in my brain. What if I drafted a fake deed? Something that looks real enough for Karen to bite, but actually gives her nothing. He laughed. You mean sell them something they technically already own? Exactly. Damn, Tom chuckled. That's downright evil. I love it. We got to work. I sent Tom every document I had, and within a few hours, he had helped me put together a totally fake yet perfectly legal-looking property deed. The deed was for a tiny strip of land that the HOA already owned, a useless patch of dirt near the community clubhouse. The wording was perfect. It made it seem like I was transferring my barn, but in reality, the only thing they'd be acquiring was a worthless plot of land they had no use for. Think Karen will notice? I asked, going over the papers one last time. Not a chance, Tom said. She's too arrogant. She thinks she's already won. She'll see deed transfer, skim the page, and throw money at it. I grinned. Then let's make sure she takes the bait. The next morning, I called Karen. Karen, I said, forcing my voice to sound defeated. I've been thinking about what you said, and you're right. Fighting the HOA is pointless. I'll sign over the barn. Silence. Then the smugness practically dripped through the phone. Well, I'm glad you finally come to your senses. Yeah, I muttered. I just want this over with. Can we meet at your office? I'll bring the paperwork. Of course, she said. I'll have our treasurer prepare the HOA funds. She thought she had me. She had no idea I was about to scam her out of her own money. The morning of the auction arrived, and I had never been so excited to watch someone ruin their own life. I played it cool, sipping my coffee on the porch as I watched Karen and her band of clipboard-wielding minions set up the event. They had gone all out, balloons, banners, even a podium. A damn podium. I chuckled to myself. They had no idea. By noon, a small crowd had gathered. HOA board members, a few nosy neighbors, and of course, Karen herself, standing front and center, soaking in the attention like she had just personally founded civilization. She was dressed in her usual power outfit, crisp white blazer, heels that sank slightly into the grass, and her ever-present smug expression. I leaned against a tree, arms crossed, watching as she strutted to the podium and tapped the microphone. Welcome, everyone, she beamed. Today is an exciting day for Sunnyside HOA as we take another step toward preserving community aesthetics and ensuring our neighborhood continues to be a place of excellence. I almost choked on my drink. Preserving community aesthetics? She was auctioning off my damn barn. Karen continued, clearly enjoying the sound of her own voice. This structure, she gestured dramatically toward my barn, has been in desperate need of repurposing for quite some time. And today, we are pleased to announce that it will be transformed into something truly beneficial for our community. Murmurs of approval from the HOA members. I fought back a grin. Oh, this was going to be good. Karen cleared her throat and smiled. As of today, the Sunnyside HOA is officially acquiring this property for future development. We have worked tirelessly to secure this deal, and we are proud to announce that we are making this purchase for. She turned toward me and held out a large, official-looking check, a very generous sum. I stepped forward, taking the check slowly, savoring the moment. It was outrageously high, way more than I expected. Karen beamed as the crowd clapped, clearly believing this was some huge win for the HOA. I turned the check over my hands and let out a satisfied sigh. Wow, I said, shaking my head. I have to admit, Karen, I didn't think you'd actually go through with it. Her smile widened. Of course, the HOA always follows through on its commitments. I nodded slowly. Yeah, you do. She didn't notice the barely contained laughter in my voice. Karen turned back to the crowd, basking in their admiration. This is what progress looks like, she declared. The HOA is committed to making Sunnyside the best it can be. And today, we have taken another bold step forward. The HOA members cheered, clapping politely. Some of my neighbors looked confused, but clapped anyway. I slid the check into my pocket and bit my lip to keep from laughing. They had no idea they just bought a worthless patch of land that they already owned. Karen had just scammed herself. And the best part? She wouldn't realize it until it was far, far too late. It only took 3 days for the entire scam to unravel. I was sitting on my porch, sipping my morning coffee, when I got the call. Bro, Tom's voice wheezed through the phone, barely suppressing laughter. They just figured it out. A slow grin spread across my face. Oh, yeah, Tom confirmed. Karen just tried to register the sale at City Hall, and guess what? I chuckled. Let me guess. She bought land the HOA already owns. Exactly, Tom said, losing it. The clerk looked at her like she had 3 heads. She basically just handed over HOA funds for nothing. I leaned back, stretching my legs out. And how's Karen taking it? From what I hear, screaming. She's at the HOA office right now, and it's absolute chaos. You should get over here, man. I didn't need to be told twice. By the time I got there, the place was in full-blown riot mode. HOA board members were yelling over each other. Papers were flying, and Karen, oh, poor Karen, was pacing back and forth like a rabid animal, her face redder than a fire hydrant. This is a mistake, she shrieked, slamming her clipboard onto the table. There has to be an error in the records. The HOA treasurer, a thin, nervous-looking guy, wiped his forehead and glared at her. Karen, We spent thousands on that land, thousands, and now you're telling us we already own it. It's not my fault. Karen snapped. He tricked us. She jabbed a finger at me the second she spotted me in the doorway. I walked in slowly, hands in my pockets, taking the sheer disaster unfolding in front of me. Tricked you? I repeated, raising an eyebrow. Karen, you told me you had the legal right to my barn. You insisted. So I sold you what you said was yours. Karen's eye twitched. You knew exactly what you were doing. Yeah, I admitted with a shrug. I did, but I also had you sign the documents. Voluntarily, in front of multiple witnesses. The treasurer threw up his hands. We spent $35,000 on nothing. That's when the yelling started again. HOA members turned on Karen, like a pack of wolves. You said this was a guaranteed deal. You wasted our money on a scam. How are we supposed to explain this to the homeowners? Karen's head snapped between them. No, listen. We can still salvage this. We just need to. Karen. The room went dead silent. An older woman, Margaret, one of the longest-standing HOA board members, stood up slowly, looking Karen straight in the eye. You're done. Karen paled. What? Margaret folded her arms. The homeowners are going to find out about this. We need to do damage control. She turned toward the rest of the board. Effective immediately, I motioned to remove Karen from her position as HOA president. A wave of murmurs spread across the room. You can't do that. Karen shrieked. I've worked too hard. All in favor? Margaret cut her off. Every hand in the room went up. I had to bite my cheek to keep from laughing out loud. Karen's face twisted into something I can only describe as pure, soul-crushing defeat. Effective immediately, Margaret said firmly, Karen is no longer president of Sunnyside HOA. I swear to God, you could have heard a pin drop. Karen stood there frozen, hands gripping her clipboard so tightly her knuckles went white. Then, without another word, she grabbed her things, stormed past me, and slammed the door behind her. And just like that, Karen was out. It didn't take long for the news to spread. By the next morning, I was getting texts from half the neighborhood. The story had blown up so fast that even people who usually ignored HOA drama were talking about it. They wasted our money on a scam. They spent our HOA fees buying land they already owned. Karen needs to pay every damn penny back. Homeowners were furious. A few even started gathering signatures to demand a full financial audit of the HOA spending. And then the local news got involved. I was grilling steaks in my backyard when I got the call. Turn on Channel 7, Tom said, practically giddy. I flipped on the TV, and there it was. Breaking news. Local HOA president ousted after property scandal. Karen's red-faced meltdown played across the screen. The reporter explained how the HOA had wasted thousands in membership fees on a bogus property deal. They even played a clip of an angry homeowner demanding answers outside the HOA office. Where's my money going? We pay these fees every month. And for what? The segment ended with Karen refusing to answer questions as she ran to her car, shielding her face with her clipboard. I nearly doubled over laughing. A few days later, I was walking my mailbox when I saw a for sale sign in Karen's yard. I nearly stopped in my tracks. She was moving. Not long after, I spotted her outside, loading boxes into a moving truck. She caught sight of me and glared daggers, but I just grinned and gave her a little mocking wave. Leaving so soon? I called. She didn't answer. She just slammed the trunk shut, climbed into the car, and peeled out of the driveway. Karen was gone. With Karen out of the picture, the HOA completely collapsed. The treasurer resigned. Half the board members quit. And within a month, the entire organization was restructured under new leadership. And my barn, still standing. I celebrated the best way I knew how, by putting up a brand new sign. Private property, no HOA permitted, just in case anyone else got ideas. Karen's downfall didn't just happen. It came crashing down on her like an avalanche. After the auction disaster, the HOA board had turned on her faster than a pack of hungry wolves. For years, she had ruled over the neighborhood like a power-hungry tyrant, issuing fines, making threats, and treating homeowners like her personal servants. But now, the tables had turned, and it was glorious. The fallout from the scam was worse than Karen could have ever imagined. During an emergency board meeting, the remaining HOA members voted to remove Karen as president permanently. But it didn't stop there. They also filed an official fraud complaint against her. Turns out, wasting thousands of dollars in HOA funds on a fake transaction wasn't just a little mistake. It was a serious financial offense. And the homeowners? Oh, they were out for blood. Angry homeowners bombarded the HOA office with complaints, demanding their money back. A few of them even got a lawyer involved, filing a lawsuit against Karen personally. She used our money to buy land we already own. She needs to pay every damn cent back, one furious homeowner told the local news. With the lawsuit piling up, Karen was now facing serious financial ruin. And just when she thought it couldn't get worse, the city stepped in. A few weeks after the auction debacle, a letter arrived in my mailbox. It was from City Hall. I opened it and read, "As of this date, your property is officially recognized as private land, separate from the Sunnyside HOA jurisdiction. No further claims or authority may be exercised over your property." I grinned. Karen had gone through all that effort, the fake zoning claims, the threats, the scams, just to end up with nothing. The city had ruled in my favor. The HOA would never be able to touch my land again. It was a perfect afternoon when I spotted the moving truck. Karen was outside, packing up the last of her belongings, her face twisted in anger. The mighty HOA queen, reduced to just another disgraced ex-president with a ruined reputation. I couldn't resist. I grabbed my hammer, a couple of nails, and a brand new sign. Walking out to my barn, I made sure Karen was watching as I nailed it in place. Private property, no HOA permitted. She froze, gripping a box so tightly her fingers turned white. Her eyes locked onto me, burning with pure hatred. I smiled. "Drive safe, Karen," I called, giving her a casual wave. She scowled, yanked open her car door, and sped off without another word. And just like that, she was gone. With Karen out of the picture, the HOA crumbled. Half the board members resigned in disgrace, and the new leadership was too afraid to pull any of the same stunts. Meanwhile, I got to enjoy my land in peace. No more threats. No more fake violations. Just me, my barn, and the freedom to live my life without some clipboard-wielding tyrant breathing down my neck. I cracked open a beer, leaned back in my chair, and smiled. This was my land, my home, and no HOA was ever going to take that away from me again.